Hello and welcome to ArtSwarm episode 14. ArtSwarm is an arts video program where we give the opportunity to you, to artists, to creatives of any sort to create a brand new video around a certain theme. And this week's theme is Norse mythology, the myths of Vikings, sagas of years past. And we're going to begin with a video by Robert Burgess, which is absolutely packed with Viking and Norse references. Lots here. I particularly love the warmth of the audio. There's also so many different references, you can probably pick them all up, but each scene is like a little vignette of Vikingness in itself. Enjoy this. Now, war poetry was the inspiration for my piece, which is next. I was picturing, I pictured some dead warriors, and I wondered how they would view our annual commemorations. Commemorations which for them are totally irrelevant now that the deed is done. It's simply called Valhalla. Here in the Hall of Kings, and heroes among sad bell rings, the apples rot with sanguine emotion, an ache for unbroken things. We watch you each year speak sepia hellos, incantations from slow old fellows, as though gravitas can battle entropy's notion and smash our gallows. We sup bitter spirits from the cups of Greece, bone-shot meals at our wheel-trodden feet, and in stupor care nothing for your mock commotion. We toast each other and repeat. Now, Stephen Goodwin's piece, which is set in a classroom, it's a short story which was originally written for the class episode of ArtSwarm.
Whose apathy is it anyway? The clock stopped ticking at 9, 3 years ago. Miss asks James to read from chapter 4. His monotoned, miserable sermon destroys of mice and men. I twitch on the hard plastic blue chair, eyeing the green blackboard and rocking back. A finely balanced scale. Sparing my pen from work, I chew on my watch strap, my car boot Casio dangling from my mouth like a lion's kill. I stare, the lesson hazily drifting me by. I flick through my thoughts like changing channels on TV. Friday, another cheap whiskey and Mario Kart. Down shots and drown the taste with corner shop coke. Club together to buy a midnight feast of pizza and chips. Back to class with a bump, my legs buckle and slide. Domino rally laughter gains momentum. Flushed, but unhurt, I scurry upright. Saved only by my book bag, I skimmed the wall. Teacher throws her disappointed face. The class clock remains still. Then Saturday clicks on my TV, an ad break from this dross. Payday for this paper lad. A week-long slog of early rises delivering news through tight letterboxes. 11 quid for 11 hours of misery on the cold, wet, dark streets. But a new bargain bin game beckons. And maybe a chip bap and a can of pop. James's book massacre ends, and teacher turns to the class. I lower my head, bury my eyes. Too late. The finger points. I must respond. The class clock quivers. I shrug apathetically as James answers for me. I could care more 3 years ago.
And now our first piece by Andrew Williams. This is a pure music piece which was created by Andrew and inspired by the idea of making a piece of music that used instruments that the Vikings had to hand, which is horns, drums and some vocals. He used a synthesizer to do this, and so he's created a strange, curious synergy between Viking sounds and the modern era. Now, Andy N's piece, Spears in Our Dreams, is a slow and evocative poem that's full of imagery and exploring the past, a bit like exploring a tomb. Now, the strange thing about this is that the words themselves melt into a background of swarming wind and nature sounds. He actually sent two versions into ArtSwarm, just a plain spoken version and one with these nature sounds over, and I thought the nature sounds really added something to it. In some ways the words are very hard to make out and disappear completely, but I thought that sort of added to the whole idea and feeling of the poem, and it creates a piece of spoken word poetry that can't really work in written poetry because it literally fades away and grows, a bit like something that evokes the past. So I think it all works.
Picture the past in our dream. The sun pedals across layers of ice, recurving beams, repeating itself over and over in subtle undercurrents. Across moorlands at the edge of the coast, covered in frozen mist covering the beach. And on the island, in almost complete darkness most days, rivers are left at the edge of winsome caves, channeling emotions in a vastly different language, handed down over 1,000 years ago, and closed shut, lost films, buried underneath mirrored visions, dissolving lifetimes into fragmented stillness, tapping away in the subconscious, begging, don't turn away. Across imaginary spears, dangling out their luncheons, over your dreams. Don't walk away. Don't wake up, and lick on.
And now we present a piece which is a complete explosion of fun. It's called The Adventures of Mjölnir, which is Thor's hammer, as you may know. And it really gives the hammer a cartoon character-like character, and it creates a modern hammer and gives it a sense of insecurity, like it doesn't really know what it's doing or why. But in the end, it transforms into a shape which is just like a Viking longship, as though it's finally discovered a route to its own past. And now a second piece which is all about Thor's hammer. This piece is by Andrew Williams, and it's basically the story of Mjölnir and how it was fashioned And Andrew actually draws the hammer literally while telling the story, which makes it very interesting.
The creation of Thor's hammer. One day, Loki the trickster found himself in an especially mischievous mood and cut off the gorgeous golden hair of Sif, the wife of Thor. When Thor learned of this, his quick temper was enraged, and he seized Loki and threatened to break every bone in his body. Loki pleaded with the thunder god to let him go down to Svartalfheim, the cavernous home of the dwarves, and see if those master craftspeople could fashion a new head of hair for Sif, this one even more beautiful than the original. Thor allowed this, and off Loki went to Svartalfheim. There he was able to obtain what he desired. The sons of the dwarf Ivaldi forged not only a new head of hair for Sif, but also 2 other marvels, Skidbladnir, the best of all ships, which always has a favourable wind and can be folded up and put into one's pocket, and Gungnir, the deadliest of all spears. Having accomplished his task, Loki was overcome by an urge to remain in the caves of the dwarves and revel in more recklessness. He approached the brothers Brokkr and Sindri and taunted them, saying that he was sure the brothers could never forge 3 new creations equal to those the sons of Ivaldi had fashioned. In fact, he even bet his head on their lack of ability. Brokkr and Sindri, however, accepted the wager. As they worked, a fly, who was, of course, none other than Loki in disguise, stung Sindri's hand. When the dwarf pulled his creation out of the fire, it was a living boar with golden hair. This was Gullinbursti, who gave off light in the dark and could run better than any horse, even through air or water. Sindri then set another piece of gold on the fire as Brokkr worked the bellows. The fly bit Brokkr on the neck, and Sindri drew out a magnificent ring, Draupnir. From this ring, every 9th night, fall 8 new golden rings of equal weight. Sindri then put iron on the hearth, and told Brokkr that, for this next working, they must be especially meticulous, for a mistake would be more costly than with the previous 2 projects. Loki immediately stung Brokkr's eyelid, and the blood blocked the dwarf's eye, preventing him from properly seeing his work. Sindri produced a hammer of unsurpassed quality, which never missed its mark and would boomerang back to its owner after being thrown, but it had one flaw: the handle was short. Sindri lamented that this had almost ruined the piece, which was called Mjölnir. Nevertheless, sure of the great worth of their 3 treasures, Sindri and Brokkr made their way to Asgard to claim the wages that were due to them. Loki made it to the halls of the gods before the dwarves and presented the marvels he had acquired. To Thor he gave Sif's new hair and the hammer Mjölnir. To Odin went the ring Draupnir and the spear Gungnir. And Freya was the happy recipient of Skidbladnir and Gullinbursti. As grateful as the gods were to receive these gifts, especially Mjölnir, which they foresaw would be of inestimable help in their battles against the giants, they nevertheless concluded that Loki still owed the dwarves his head. When the dwarves approached Loki with knives, the cunning god pointed out that he had promised them his head, but not his neck. Brokkr and Sindri contented themselves with sewing Loki's mouth shut, and returned to their forge.
Now our final piece, which is a piece from Claire Bassi, and it's all about runes and what runes are and how they are used for divination, but also how they can be used for creativity and storytelling. And as part of it, Claire creates a poem based on the random orientation of the runes.
Today we're going to be looking at Norse mythology and runes. I'll be making a rune poem. When you read the runes, the ones closest are most likely to happen in the near future, the ones furthest away are the ones that will happen later in the future. I don't actually have any Norse ancestors, but I do have ancestors who read tea leaves, so this is very similar because it's divination. Perhaps this is more like decision making, like the Pew Matrix, to help you make decisions about big choices. Now we're going to look at the position that the stones have fallen in. The first position looks a bit like an ArtSwarm symbol. This means sun, which is energy. So pretty soon you'll be feeling energetic. This is close to me, so it means quite near in the future. We'll be feeling very energetic. This one looks a bit like a fish, which symbols prosperity. Maybe in the not too distant future, you'll be coming into some money. This little box means destiny. This is your destiny. This cross means in the future there may be a marriage or a large gift coming your way. And perhaps far in the distant future, you'll be experiencing this creative moment. Maybe you'll do something very creative in the future. The stones that have fallen face down can't be read. Now we're going to try to make a poem. Okay, using the runes and their meanings, I've written a short poem which took about 2 minutes. The sun's energy brings growth and light to crops and earth-bound shoots. Here are your roots. This place is destiny, born here to thrive, driven to live. A gift awaits, your fate is creativity, a curse or blessing. This is the whole set of runes. It's usually made out of little slices of wood from a nut tree, but these are made out of sea glass. This one is a symbol for giant, which is strength. This one is a symbol for finance. And this one is for success.
And I like the fact that that piece included ArtSwarm itself with its logo, with the spirit of energy and excitement, which is what this show is all about. Well, that's it for episode 14 of ArtSwarm. I hope you've enjoyed it. My name's Mark Sheeky, and if you'd like to create something for ArtSwarm, you can look up the ArtSwarm page on my website, marksheeky.com/artswarm.php, which has all of the instructions on how to create something. The main theme, the main rule, I suppose, is that it has to be new. Everything you've seen in ArtSwarm has been a world premiere, and that's what makes it so exciting and so interesting. It's really an exercise in creativity itself. You can connect with the programme on @ArtSwarmTV on Twitter, and I look forward to showcasing next week's ArtSwarm, and the theme is Europe, so that should be very interesting in these mysterious and troubled times. I look forward to seeing you then.